Okay, so I just got my first card from this place called ReSpec, and I haven't opened it yet. The goal is to upgrade my work computer so that it uses FreeSync, has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and a considerably faster graphics card. Now I'm expecting a bit of a bottleneck from this because this is my work computer, which is an A8, but the frames per second I was achieving was actually pretty high. Since I got this new monitor, I don't have to use VSync. I don't have to use any of the extra synchronization modes that are part of Radeon's software. So the monitor will just pretty much adapt. But the card that I have now, which is an R9 270X with 4 gigabytes, it's pretty good. It's a fast card, and I tried a RX series before. I think it was a 470, maybe a 570, and the system wouldn't recognize it. And I think that's because it didn't have, either it didn't have a BIOS switch or I didn't know about the BIOS switch. I think it may have been I didn't know about the BIOS switch because it was an XFX series. So those have a BIOS switch. Now those can be to fall back onto a stable BIOS if you have a problem, but also they are to enable legacy support, which in this case is why. So the legacy support is necessary because this is a non-UEFI board. So the non-UEFI compatibility is one of the main reasons I'm doing this. This card and this place, ReSpec, is they refurbish and give you a 1-year warranty on your graphics cards. So this should be a 1-year warranty, refurbished. And so we've got the little team here, correspondence, small team of computer enthusiasts. We do our utmost to ensure all parts we sell are worthy of our own builds. Whether you purchased on Amazon, Newegg, or eBay, you can expect small business support from our dedicated team. And it says they've got your back. So that's really cool. I am, you know, it's you're paying us a little bit more, but it's considerably better when, you know, you buy these cards. You can either be prepared to repaste and repad your cards yourself, like what I'm doing with this. This is a PNY NVIDIA GTX 1080 XLR8 OC with 8 gigs of RAM, and this card needs the complete. The pads on it are, you know, what, 9 years old. They're over 9 years old, and the paste wasn't cutting it. I was using Arctic 4. So I read up on it. They said no, use Arctic 6, and then I got the best Arctic pads that I could get. So hopefully that will fix this problem. This card was actually pink screening and crashing on my computer. My son has the same card, right? So I went ahead and repasted the card and cleaned it, but I didn't have any new pads for it. And I went ahead and tinned the connection because I thought maybe there was some scratching on the connector pads. So I tinned where I thought there was scratching on the connector pads, cleaned the card, repasted the card, but I didn't have any extra paste. And it worked for him for a long time, but he did have some crashing. Like, it was so sparse that we just considered it might have been, you know, power fluctuations in the house, because we have a power dip and high draw when our air conditioner turns on, or when there's more than one powerful computer working. And he was playing RE4 Remake and getting a pretty good performance out of it. He played for like 3 hours one day without any problems. Then it started crashing. So could be a dead card. Really hope that it's not. But I noticed that I don't know if I did this or what, but there was this like paste on the pads around the RAM. And I know that this is weird. This is not going to be good because it's not going to draw heat off of the RAM the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to be doing, you know, total super deep cleaning of this card, repaste, repad, and that's what these guys do. They repaste, repad, and they give you this little, you know, what they do. So high bandwidth HDMI required. Of course, I've got that. Using your 6 and 8 pin power cables. So I definitely have all this. I have a nice fresh new power supply in my work computer that's only like a year or two old. Okay, so this is going to be an upgrade. Hopefully it's not really quick. Oops, won't work situation, but I'm thinking it's going to work. Just realized this card's really, really big. A lot larger than I thought it was, so hopefully I'm not canceling myself out right away with the card that won't even fit. I didn't know the card was this big. Goodness gracious. Okay, breaking the static. Nice, clean, fresh, brand new static bag. Now I did have a pretty large card though in this system before, but I had no idea this card was this big. The FX series was not this big, and this is a Sapphire RX, and one of the cards I had in this system before was a Sapphire, but it was an older Vapor X that used the special Vapor X that was a 2 GB variant, old Vapor X card, and most of them were 1 GB at the time, and it was actually, I looked up what the fastest, this bag's really tight, I looked up what the fastest 2x16 card was, and it ended up being this really, really cranked up Sapphire card. And I had that for a long time in the system, and it was great. I did videos of it here on YouTube, it ran a lot of the games that I love, like Resident Evil. Here we go. Wow, it looks almost brand new. As I'm looking at it, I don't think this card's going to fit. I really don't. I don't think this card's even going to fit in the system. And it struck me, this is an 8 and 6, which actually is what that old 2 GB RX card used. I mean, not RX card, Sapphire Vapor X card used. But most of the RX 580s use a 6-pin or an 8-pin, but not both. So this one is because it's a special, newer variant. And then if we look on here, we have something important here, the BIOS switch. This switch will hopefully enable this to work on a legacy system. And that's what I'm going for. I need legacy support. This is an RX 580, 8 gigabytes. So, I don't know, the way I'm looking at it now, it looks great, it matches my system perfectly, but I don't think that's going to fit. So, and I had considered trying something really weird if this doesn't fit, and that's putting my work system in a different case. And because it's one of these, you know, pre-built, that's kind of really iffy, because the way the USB connectors on the front are, they have like proprietary designs that will basically never work on any kind of you know, additional, like a custom case. But there are custom cases that I really like, and I had considered doing that if this doesn't work. And as I'm looking at it, I really just, my brain's telling me that's not going to fit. So it's probably going to be that it won't fit. We'll see. Okay, yeah, this card, I'm pretty sure this card is, it's almost as big, it's lengthwise, it's almost as long as a triple fan GTX 1080 card. And I think it is actually thicker than a triple fan 1080 card. So I really don't, I think this isn't even going to fit. But we're going to find out anyway. Now I like the R9. I'm not entirely upset with it, but I wanted FreeSync because the monitor I got has FreeSync capabilities. So that was one kind of a selling point here, was the FreeSync capable graphics card. So I wanted FreeSync, and just kind of hoping. Now this has a custom fan that I installed to help with airflow. All the way down here we're looking at 21 centimeters and 25.5 centimeters. I think it will fit, but I don't know. There's only one way to find out, of course. And now I didn't. What good YouTubers would do, which I'm not a good YouTuber. I'm just cheap, quick, bad editing, super long, boring video YouTuber. I don't use AI splashy anything. This is just me sitting on my butt in my workroom. But what a good YouTuber would do is provide a control where I showed the frame rate with some data up there and everything. But I can tell you this, I can get 70 frames per second on Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, of course, you can probably tell just by looking at this, this case was not made for a gigantic graphics card. You know, everything's good. I got the best RAM for this system. Although it is only 8 gigabytes, I could probably go ahead and put 16 in it, would be better. The best processor that this system can have, a new power supply, but there is a little bit of bottlenecking here because the processor is pretty old. I don't think there's any way to, there we go. Alright, so we're just going to back this up a little, give it a turn, and this one took 2 power supply plug-ins here, but I think it was 2 6s, but of course we do have the little extra part here to go 8 and 6. And this is a Sapphire R9 270 Dual X with 4 gigabytes, and most of these have 2 gigabytes. I didn't think that this card, and when I look at the pictures I see this and I'm thinking that they're the same, but look at the difference in the size of these cards. This card is gigantic compared to this card. Now there is room to try to get it in here, but yeah. Let me see. Now, yeah, if I could get it in there lengthwise, it might fit. Okay, so what I've had to do, and this is in the worst progression method possible. I got the card in, but then I realized a whole bunch of stuff was blocking it. So with the card in, unable to remove it the way it is, I have cut away the shroud that holds the master hard drive. Here's some pieces of that metal, and I am cutting right here so this card will have enough room to sit relatively flush. Now it has popped loose one of the RAM holding components, so getting the RAM in there, I had to remove the RAM obviously, is going to be kind of a task. So this is, you know, Caveman. Now all I have is this clippers. I don't have a saw or anything like that. So I am cutting the metal carefully, just piece by piece, until I get close enough to where I can break the piece off. And then this shroud will be gone, and the hard drive will actually sit lengthwise next to the other hard drive. But there's not enough room for the card because it was hitting the back of the hard drive and this metal piece on the shroud. With all that in there, the card is sitting relatively flush, I think. but I might have just destroyed everything just with all of the crap that I just did. The power supply should fit comfortably once this piece of metal's out of the way, and this is going to help with airflow, although I do need a different cooler for my CPU. This is an old system. Okay, so this huge chunk of nasty is out of there. A lot more open case now. I want to kind of re-bend, and these are very, very sharp, very dangerous cut metal. I've actually had to do this before. This isn't the first time I've done this weird caveman thing. This case that I eventually ended up with my son, the GTX was too long, but I knew that the board was compatible. I knew that the processor was compatible. Everything was fine. It's just the case wouldn't fit. So I actually did the same thing. I cut away a piece of metal on that case so that the new card would fit. Now that is probably as straight as that's going to get. And when they make these compact cases, of course, they're not making them so that you can do this. This is something that none of this was never intended to do what I'm doing with it right now. So this is really asking for it. Like, I'm pushing it here, trying to do something this crazy. I hope I didn't damage my cables because this card was jammed up under that metal shroud. Let's just hope this is okay. That's much better. And I got a whole bunch of free screws out of this. I don't know, I have a feeling this isn't going to work at all. And you know, the whole purpose here, of course, is the extra speed, but there's going to be a bottleneck. But the 8 gigabytes of video RAM should help considerably with game performance. When I have a gaming rig, but it's also in flux because my graphics card was given to my son because the one he had in his system was crashing. It's always like that, right? Like, I'm willing to do what it takes for my son to be hooked up fat if I can, but it ends up costing me my stuff in the long run. And I don't mind, but I can't play my games on my gaming computer because I gave him my good card. Okay, so now we need to get this hard drive back in here carefully because this is dangerous here. I'm almost 50. I haven't been to the doctor in so long, and I have all kinds of problems. You know, I'm one of those people where I probably should have been going to the doctor like once a month or something, right? Like, I'm not someone who should just ignore the doctor. I have you know, advanced periodontitis I got periodontal disease from my wife. I remember she told me when we were first together that she had periodontal disease and that I was going to get it from kissing her. And I was like, oh, I don't care, baby. I don't care. And now, yeah, now my teeth are like, my teeth get super loose and they just fall right out. I don't, you know, I can't afford to go to the dentist, so I don't go to the dentist. I have serious breathing problems. I have asthma where cat hair, dust, dander, mold, pollen, silk, anything that's in the air that's small suffocates me. So I have that problem, and I can get by with taking you know, certain allergy mixed with over-the-counter asthma inhalers enough to where I don't usually really feel like I would need to go get the more expensive medicines. And I had kind of a bad situation with the expensive medicine where our insurance had run out and we didn't know, and I went there, and right in front of all these people, this pharmacist came out and he showed me the thing, and he said, now you realize you're going to have to pay this. And it said something like $460 some for 2 inhalers, which I was getting for free under my wife's insurance when she was a teacher. So once she stopped being a teacher, getting the medicine that I was taking for my asthma was like completely out of reach. Okay, so here we've got the Sapphire card. We have totally reshaped this. We've got the hard drive hopefully in a good enough space. I'm going to go ahead and try to close this up. I need a new CPU fan. I want a really good one, like something, and honestly, a whole new case would be ideal for this system. Just gut this and put it in like a fancy gamer case with anime girls all over it or something. I had considered getting that, what is it called, like, I don't even remember, like, I don't know, Arch something. There's a Linux that's made for weeboos. I don't know if I'd go so far as to call myself a weeboo. Like, I don't worship anime cartoons or anything, but I do love anime, and I think that anime is so cute. But here we go. Okay, it's closed up. here we go. Let's give it a try. I think I'm probably going to be flipping the BIOS switch right away because it's not even going to start up. Alright, it's starting up. I set my drive up for IDE, or it was already set up for IDE when it was installed, even though it's SATA drives. It tried to do the first initial startup, so it couldn't see the drives. Now it's probably going to automatically install the Radeon driver because I think it uses the same drivers. But either way, we're going to check on the drivers. And yeah, it's giving me that host app stopped working thing, of course, because it's the wrong card, the wrong setup card. And we'll see what it does. It will probably find it. But I might need to bring a USB drive in here with updated drivers for this specific card, even though I think it uses the same drivers. Okay, as I suspected, I'm pretty sure here the drivers that I've got are the same. The 2261, it rings a bell, I think that's what's on here. Radeon, I'm pretty sure they were just trying to make it, you know, so you could download one large software package and it would cover most of their cards. And this is a 2022 update, the last update they did for the RX series. I think there's a 590, but the 580 is fine. Now, when I first bought a gaming rig that I talked about in previous videos, I ended up giving it to my oldest son. I bought it and I was playing it. I think I had it for a couple of days, and he goes, I don't know, man, I just want one exactly like what you got. I want one exactly like that. And I said, okay, well, I said, here, you can have it as long as we're, I said, the deal is that I'm going to give you this, but we always have to be friends. And that didn't work. I mean, I don't ever see him. So, but yeah, I gave him that, and it had a 570, and then when I had a 1060 that I didn't need because I was upgrading to a 1080, I gave him the 1060. Actually, he bought it from me for 50 bucks. Really, really good card. Both the 1060 and 1080 are both exceptional cards. So if this isn't the right driver, then I'm currently downloading it anyway, just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to start up and go, oh, you've got this card, because it's the same driver. The reason I think it's the same driver is it has all those options set up for that specific line of cards. Well, it has like the FreeSync and all the different things enabled for that type of card. Those are things that aren't even on the R9 series, but it's, you know, still there. Here we've got the old resolution that my system had. Sounds like things are moving. And as caveman as that looked, I was as gentle as I could be with the forceps. Yeah, there we go. With the clippers, with the cutters. And most people, and probably rightly so, would just go, this ain't going to fit, forget it. And I'm the type of person that's like, you know, I think I might go ahead and chop the metal physically to force it to fit. And, you know, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. It just told me to reboot one more time. I upgraded the fan on my son's gaming rig. What ended up happening is my oldest son had a friend whose father died relatively young. I guess he had medical problems and they went away, but then they came back and he died. And he had made her a computer and she gave it to my oldest son. And my oldest son gave it to me. I was working on it, and he goes, you know, I was just going to give it to you anyway, so you can have it. And I said, okay. So, and it's this great big gaudy red, like red devil with weird, like, I don't know, metal plates on it that have like decorations. It's very decorative, and that's the one when I first had to cut and sculpt the metal to fit the 1080 in it. And that's what I gave to my youngest son before I got a nicer, a more powerful, smaller, more modern gaming computer. And then I had just two of the same 1080 cards, the PNY NVIDIA GTX 1080 XLR8 OC 8GB cards. They're gigantic, really, really great cards. You know, obviously you should go TI if you're going to go with those in the modern world, if you're going to stick with the non-ray tracing, non-RTX, no AI enhanced kind of cards, which is what I prefer. And I'm sure eventually I'll have to move up to the RTX cards. And when I do that, I'm just going to build a whole new system. I'm not going to bother with trying to keep upgrading a system that, you know, really will bottleneck the RTX far too much for it to be usable. And with my gaming rig, I can get great frames per second, especially for my 4K television, which is stuck at 60 hertz, which most people would think is low, but when you have a monitor that's stuck low like that, like 60 hertz, and then your card can match that easily, you get really, really smooth, fast gameplay. So I'm getting 4K graphics on games like, you know, RE2 Remake, RE3, RE4, just lots of different games, even newer games, and they're running very fast, very smooth. But yeah, Requiem, not so good. I tried it out, and I don't know. I'm not really into the game so much either. It's okay, but there are things about Requiem that I kind of just don't like. And I think it's just because it's such a linear game. It's really point A to point B. I don't know. Of course, I haven't given it enough of a chance to really judge how I feel about it. Like, I didn't like 7. And I didn't like 7 because everything looks like it's either made of or covered in shit. Like you're fighting shit monsters made of shit in a house totally covered in shit. All the redneck monster evil assholes in it, they're all shitty monsters. It's just shit, totally. Now, what I do like about it, I think Mia is beautiful and she's cool, and I like the character. I don't have a problem with the character. Now here we see tuning's automatic, auto-tuning default, and it's got my VRAM much higher than the last card, and it starts me up on the same page that I was on before with the R9. So these are apparently completely compatible drivers. So I can go over to my gaming here, and you can just see here that RE2R, the last time I played it, if you can see this, was 71.1 frames per second on average, which is really, really good. And if we look at it, the frame time, 16 millisecond, 95th percentile frame time, that's even really, really great frame times. Okay, so I think this is an A8, if I'm not mistaken here. We're looking at an A8 3870 APU Radeon HD 3 gigahertz. I got 8 gigs of gaming RAM, 64-bit OS. It's Windows 7 Ultimate. So this is a bottleneck CPU. I mean, it's an older generation CPU than what this card was intended for. So here in a second, we're going to give it some tests. I have enabled variable refresh rate on the monitor. I have enabled FreeSync in the game Resident Evil 2 Remake. I might need to reinstall the software suite. Well, it just acted like it was turning it on. Great. No idea what to expect here. Let's see about loading the game. Find the 3 medallions, dark room. We'll start there. Nice blank spot to start with. I think sometimes it tries to load the old Radeon app from my original card, and because I've noticed that I can still usually open my frames per second overlay, which is part of the Radeon software. Okay, this is running pretty fast and smooth. Not seeing any screen tearing. I don't have VSync on. I don't know. Let's see if the overlay pops up. I don't know if it will. Yeah, I don't think it's popping up the overlay. Sometimes it takes a second. Also, what is that? Oh, okay, that's the... Control-Shift-O should be the overlay. Okay. So, this is without the overlay working. Oh yeah, because it reset the thing, the overlay is just not on. That's all it is. I just realized. Now this is a modded version of the game with considerably more bad guys and all kinds of stuff going on. Okay, it's it is running fast. Let me see what my options say. 120 Hertz, variable frame rate. FreeSync is off. We've got 2 gigs. Everything's pretty well. Okay, shadow quality's at minimum. I don't think I had it at minimum before. Or maybe I did. Now, I don't like motion blur usually. That's just personal preference. Actually, if I want to see how terrible it is, I can go out to the other, a little bit of jittering here. Go out to the main floor, and that will be a very clear indicator of how bogged down this will get. Because once you're out on in the entryway, there we go. Yeah, now it's starting to fight a little bit. Now, of course, I doubt FreeSync is actually enabled right now because the software is not on. So let's go out here. Okay, well, it's not as bad as it was, but it's definitely taking a performance hit just being here, because this is a massive room. Sounds like there's some bad guys way up there. Okay, so let's leave. So far, so good. So, of course, I didn't play it hard enough to crash the thing, and it is playing though. It sees the card. It's running like the good card. It's not obviously not running the APU, and it just gave me the Alt-R to open the Radeon software. So whatever problem it's having, it didn't close the Radeon software. So let's go ahead and try turning on the that was 71.1 16 millicent optimal. That was the same though. That can't be the same. So we'll go to gaming and we'll click it to update it. Now what I was using with the last card was enhanced sync, and through my TV I noticed that that really helped. It gave me the over 70 frames per second. It didn't cut up the screen. Yeah, it seemed to really help a lot. I think reinstalling the graphics drivers might fix whatever belch it's having here with starting. So it's not going to record the frames per second or the frame times or anything if the software itself isn't running overhead. Oh, and here it had like 9 instances of it open over here on my taskbar. So yeah, definitely something going on there with the Radeon software. Alright, so I'm totally uninstalling completely all prior Radeon software and then reinstalling the 2261 drivers. Okay, so we've got it running. Now I think I'm in low power mode because I did switch the BIOS switch, but we're getting relatively high frame rate. Now I don't have a fan curve set. On the last card I set a fan curve because this case can run kind of hot, and the CPU can throttle. Okay, now we drop below 60. We're at 51, then 47. That's more like what I was getting with the other card. And it keeps changing. Now I'm noticing the GPU power is staying below 100 watts, and I think that's because it is in the second BIOS switch, which might be a low power mode. Now online you get mixed information about the BIOS switch. Some places say it is a low power mode, and other places say that it is a UEFI legacy BIOS switch. Now having UEFI legacy BIOS is part of the big reason why I got this, because this is a legacy system. Now it has an optional UEFI enabler, but that's not on. So my system runs with a legacy BIOS, and so for it to recognize the card obviously has to be legacy compatible, which many modern cards are not. legacy BIOS compatible. So here we're going to have a screechy proximity mine. Now if I could somehow cap this frame rate, which of course setting it to 60, it would probably fluctuate. Getting it below 60 I don't really like, and I don't know if FreeSync is actually doing anything. My temps are good so far. 60 is not horrible, but I think a controlled fan curve would be better. So I could keep the fan running high. I used to keep that running very, very high, just to make absolutely sure that my fan curve protects the card. Because once it starts accelerating and the CPU throttles, you always get performance impact. So, and this isn't a great test because these are some relatively small, somewhat empty rooms with only 1 or 2 zombies in them. Like the library with 5 or 6 zombies in it at once would probably be a better test. Now everything seems very smooth though, and that could be FreeSync matching the frames per second. But I'm noticing ever so slight catch up. Nothing that's prohibitive of gameplay, but I want to keep it above 60 frames per second if it's at all possible. Of course, that's what I'm going for, is at least 60 frames per second. But, you know, that's probably, you know, a little bit dreamy to think that this processor will allow that. Now, we've noticed the CPU utilization is at 95%. And, oops. And the GPU is at 100, and that's that bottleneck where the GPU is forced to slow down to let the processor catch up. And so that's always going to be in effect here. A little bit smoother transition into the library, but it dropped way low to 34 frames per second, back up to 47, 51. Still though, it's playing somewhat smoothly. But like I said, I want 60 frames per second if I can get it. Now, turning down some settings probably wouldn't be bad. Like the shadows seem to greatly affect the gameplay. Also a couple other things, floor reflections, ambient occlusion, things like that. Things that are all post-processing, but this is pretty smooth. Like even though and now it says 60, getting 62 frames per second in this room is very good. So that's what I'm looking for. When it's in motion and it's having to catch up with its own post-processing, that's going to be, you know, part of what's causing the problem, I think. We're utilizing over 4 gigabytes, or right at 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And so because we have the extra RAM, it's going to allow the card to run better. The GPU clock is considerably higher than the R9, starting out at 2075 megahertz. I think this is a plus card, and because we're achieving these kind of speeds, it's a good indicator that the power for the card is working right. So I think I might shut the system down and then turn the BIOS switch back up in case I'm in low power mode. And what that will probably do is make it so I have to use a fan curve, and it may make the game run slightly faster. But what it is it's a low power mode. That's a low level change. Let's skip this real quick. That it probably will be better to leave it the way it is, just because this is a bottleneck system, and having low power mode might protect the card. But I still need to try it out, and it shouldn't affect the drivers. This is the first successful run. Now, a couple things I could do. I could force the monitor into 60 Hertz mode. I could lower the hertz of the game itself, but I think that would cause some visual slower response in the screen. I like the 120 Hertz that the screen is set to now. I think it's safe to assume that FreeSync is actually working. I'm not getting too much, if any, tearing. Everything's very smooth no matter what the frames per second is doing. And so I don't know if capping with VSync and having it set to 60 frames a second would make this all very, very smooth, or if possibly using FreeSync combined with the other synchronized method for the card. But right now it says FreeSync is enabled. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave. I think that was a successful run. It was a short amount of gameplay, but the temperature is at 65. It was a pretty slow crawl to get there. The card is acting like a fresh, clean, virtually new card. I didn't have any throttling. So one thing I don't like about Windows 7 Ultimate, and I think this is something with 8 as well, and anything before 8, is that whenever you plug in a Xbox One controller, once it goes through the startup procedure, it always tests the vibration motors. And I don't ever use rumble effects or vibration effects in any of my games. I always turn it off. I never use it. But also, if this controller is left just sitting somewhere, like suppose you have it sitting on your desk or on your system, and then you turn your system on and then you walk away. Well, in a couple of minutes, a couple seconds, you're going to hear and possibly hear your controller hitting the floor because it has walked itself off of whatever surface it's currently sitting on. Default Radeon Watt Manager settings have been restored. So yeah, now it's in high power mode, I think. I think it's safe to assume. Now, Watt Manager, I think, is part of the software that corresponds with that low-level hardware wattage. So if what they said was true on the internet, some people said, then this card is now in high power mode, and it should allow the card to draw more wattage as it's running. Of course, then it's going to get hotter. It's probably going to need a better, higher fan curve to keep it from throttling. It may not run better, but we'll see. Okay, that gave me some screen flashing and a dark screen and some obvious errors. I think that the software that runs the voltage is now wrong because the voltage is set high for the card. So it's probably causing errors because of that. So I'm going to shut down the game, shut down the system, restart it, and see if it takes care of it that way. It seems to be hanging at this screen, and it doesn't want to open Task Manager, doesn't want to exit, but I already know if I start clicking on things, it's going to open stuff like it's on the main screen. So I definitely have a little bit of a problem here. I'm going to probably go ahead and reinstall the drivers a second time in case the wattage manager has a problem. Alright, so I'm removing the old software and reinstalling the same stuff. Hopefully the voltage wattage manager program will get the picture. Okay, I'm trying out a fan curve. Hopefully we won't get any artifacts or weird stuff going on. Alright, we've got metrics overlay. Yeah, way higher GPU power draw. 159 watts now. We'll go to the original save. Let's drop down to 65, then 118. This is using FreeSync enabled. And I like hearing the fan. I set the fan metric so that I could audibly know that the fan metric is working. Okay. Much higher power draw, a little bit higher frames per second, but it's still dropping. Really looks like it's trying to catch up with itself. I guess if I want to see if FreeSync is working, I can turn on a screen update display, which is built into the monitor itself, that will put the screen display hertz up on the top right of the screen, and then I can see if it's matching or closely matching. Now I guess FreeSync though is better suited to higher frame rate situations. So when you're dropping down below 60 frames a second, it might not exactly be helpful. My utilizations are balancing out where CPU is not up to 100. So that's really good. So we are getting slightly higher frames per second with the higher power draw. I've noticed everything is fluctuating though. Like the power draw, utilization, it's all heavily fluctuating. It dropped to 33. Should jump back up. It's almost the same frames per second as when the card was in low power mode. My GPU temperature is at 55. I think it was there as well without the fan curve, and again in low power mode. Now this is using an IDE formatted drive through SATA. So this is probably the slowest hard drive that you could have to run this with this type of system. A solid state drive would be faster, obviously. But a solid state drive, they have, you know, longevity issues, formatting, fragmenting issues, things like that. Everything has its, you know, good and bad aspects. You could find a reason to listen to records instead of CDs or MP3s, like perhaps bitrate. Like if all you have is 128 or less bitrate music, then records would be a higher fidelity sound. There's always a reason. Okay, I like how fast it's going though, and it seems to be going pretty smooth, but then again it just sputtered quite a bit. I guess the ultimate test will be if when I shut this game down it hangs on the screen, because that's definitely a problem. I may need to start the game and then try to run it in windowed, borderless window mode, and maybe it just needs to figure out that it can do that. So there's some drops, but it seems to balance out and tries to get over 60 frames a second. This might be a situation where having the other synchronization methods are more efficient than FreeSync. So we'll see. Now this is the City of the Dead. So up and through that walkway there, fighting the first Birkin mutation fight is actually full of dogs and zombies and also hunters, but I've disabled the hunters and replaced them with lickers, and lickers that can be killed. So it's a little curb there to the difficulty here. Okay, now we have some CPU throttling mixed with the graphics card's fan curve. We've got 59C, 3 gigs of my system RAM utilization, and 4 gigs of VRAM utilization. My GPU clock's at 2000, which is very good, much higher than my last card, and we're fluctuating it between anywhere between 80 and 150 watts of power. It's better. It's a better performing game now than before. So I think we'll go ahead and we'll call it a subtle win, because some tweaking is going to have to be done, assuredly, to get this where I want it to be. Now let's see if it will shut down. There's an HDMI program enabled that I think might have been affecting the game's capability, the game's ability to shut down and change screens. So let's see. Yeah, see, it did that. And it shouldn't have done that. That was a controller reconnect. It is not leaving the game screen. Control-Alt-Escape is not leaving it. Okay, so I'm running it in windowed mode, and I'm able to shut down the game properly. Now I'm going to try it in borderless windowed mode. There we go. There we go, that worked. Card's being picky about whether it wants to actually exit to the desktop. I did change the screen to 144 Hz, which it wasn't an option before. And I think that was because of the card that I had. Now we're at full screen. There. All right. So that appears to be exiting properly. Okay. Now that doesn't mean I'll be able to play it and exit properly, but I'll try that out later. Looks like we've got a successful running graphics card. So I'm going to leave the computer. I'm actually going to shut it down one good time. Then I'll start it up fresh with the controller and give it a test run, and just confirm that everything's running the way it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm having that same problem. It worked that one time when I changed it to 144. I think the game was still set to 120. So, and variable refresh rate is on here, but I don't think it's staying on my monitor. And it's not recording metrics. So, at least it wasn't. So let's see if I go to gaming, if there's any metrics. Yeah, here we go. 10 minutes, 78.6 with 8 millisecond. That's extremely fast. There's something to do with the monitor. Now I'm going to go in RE2. Now we can see by definition that the screen is changing its frame rate based on or changing the hertz based on the frame rate. Okay, and it's freaking out. So, oops. We'll go back to windowed mode. Now we'll go to borderless window. I don't know why that changed to 66. Okay, they're at full screen. We have what appears to be the FreeSync happening. So if I go FreeSync and change this to 60, there. Now we have a stable 60 hertz and 60 with FreeSync. And in full screen mode, I'll go ahead and make this even crazier by turning on the, there we go, and of course it's tiny. Oh God, it ain't one thing, it's another.
Obviously I'm going FreeSync. So it's recording?
Yes.
Repeat it. I'm so excited. Okay, I wonder if I can put a marker. Oh, okay, I have to head back into the mountain. I'm gonna do a quick trick. Failed to do a quick trick. Okay. Challenge map. Locations, landmarks. Cougar Mountain. Teleporting to Cougar Mountain.
So Nick likes to use the coffin, which we found out something pretty funny on this completely insane place. Okay, it reminds me of one of the classic skaters from, back in the day, like the 90s and stuff. A skater named Bernd Bobquist, who made a massive half pipe, like one of the world's, maybe the world's biggest half pipe, and he drops in and flies down this half. It's completely insane. And this is very much like that, only bigger. This is even bigger than Bernd Bobquist's half pipe, and this is concrete. His, I think, is wood.
Alright, place the marker. Let me make sure. Yep, okay. Alright, this is awesome.
Oh.
Ah, darn it. One second. Oh. No. Oh. That hurt. There we go. I fell. Nope. Getting back to I love that.
Alright.
Oh! Uh-oh. Not mean to go that far. Oh my God! How?
Go to the right.
One second. I'm gonna do the right. Oh, well, failed to.
Because over on the right's the branches that you can go.
I went so far in that location that it's just restarting and heading back to the last marker. It's like, here, let me load.
I remember Skate 1 and Skate 2. I didn't like Skate 3, but I think there's a spot in Skate 1, if I remember, I think it's Skate 1, where there was this pool. And they kept playing this awesome song over and over again, and I could do so many moves on the pool.
What am I doing?
That I just had to keep going there. And I was when I got Skate 2 for the 360, I kept trying to find that pool. And eventually, after endlessly trying to find the pool, I realized, wait a minute, I think it was Skate 1. I don't think it was Skate 2 that had it.
Oh man.
So I'm pretty sure the reason I can't find that pool.
I'm gonna head into this with career mode so I can see how much bones I break.
Oh boy.
Look, challenge map.
Okay, so you can go to Burn Bobquist's Concrete Death Trap.
Yep. Locations, landmarks, there it is. Cougar Mountain.
Okay, Cougar Mountain. Now, I'm not sure if this was actually inspired by Burn Bobquist's Death Trap, but I'm pretty sure it was, just because, but it's not a half pipe. Now, what he did was just a completely insanely gigantic wooden half pipe. And, I mean, it's like, it's crazy. And he went down it, and he wore pads. I mean, he was one of the proponents of helmets. Even back in the day, he wore helmets a lot. But, like today, Andy Anderson is the big, helmet guy. And I was watching him one day, and I saw him wearing a helmet, and he was sitting there talking, and I realized that if you took off his helmet, that right underneath it would just be another smaller helmet. And that, but Burn Bobquist had a helmet and elbow pads and knee pads, and I think, he was armored.
Look at this!
This is bigger though. This is like significantly bigger than Burn Bobquist's.
They removed
Death
the
Trap.
path. They removed
You
the
have
path.
to turn off the water.
Really?
There's going to be like a mission or whatever where you turn off the water, then it unlocks this location.
I have $10,000?
That's great. You can go buy wheels. So, but like toe, knee, hawk, and the mutt, and Nodus, which is Satan backwards, and Burn Bobquist were all OG Thrasher skaters who did ramp and street, and then, Rodney Mullen merged freestyle with street, and so that's what we have today is freestyle merged with street. Because before that, street was like crazy dudes with like motorcycle helmets on, just going down a hill as fast as they could, and they do like, some slides to slow down or get control, and they'd like fall and be picking gravel out of their butt and chest and stuff, and but then they had ramp, which that's where the ollie first came from, was the ramp skating. And then they went ollie on flat, and then Rodney did That's Incredible. And he was like 14 or 13 or something. He was a little kid. He was like a little kid. And he went on there and I think he had a helmet on, because they want to promote safety. They don't want people to think that skateboarding is like, a mentally retarded psycho's way of killing themselves, because it's what it seems like to normal people. You're just trying to kill yourself, getting on a board and then going and flying down a hill or something. So they have helmets and knee pads and wrist pads and elbow pads and body armor and paint pads. They have feminine hygiene pads. You have Apple iPads, and it's perfect. No!
At least least he stayed on his
Failed.
skateboard.
No, you need to go on the right side this time and go under all of the trees.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
And then,
That's also not the part. Yeah, I just gotta do one of those.
no.
How am I doing that?
Much better.
Right side.
Now, see, there's a logical reason to do the coffin right here.
Right here.
So that you can go under all of the felled trees and not die.
And then my favorite part.
This is the plumbing, where you're the turd coming out of the plumbing. And,
Oh, that's
that was not real. I think that wouldn't have really happened. But I think Skate 1 is great. Skate 2 looks better, but isn't as good. Skate 3 is terrible. And I guess Skate 4 got better. Like, it was crap at first, but now it's good. Like, they did what a lot of companies do now, and they, like, feed it to you beta, and then they make it better in increments as people adopt it and try to get into it. They, like, add the improvements, and it forces you to be online, and it forces you to put up with their crap. So yeah, I'm trying to get that screen to, because it plays the games, but then it won't leave the game and go back into Windows. It just like sticks on that screen, and I don't know why. So,
and that's the part that I failed at last time I did this.
Alright. Okay, so we're going to try again. Pretty sure it's going to work this time. But I don't know. First we'll check the graphic settings. I got borderless window. We'll go window, that worked. Full screen. Okay. Okay, yeah, they're switching now. That's good. Okay, got the underground stairs. Buttery. Okay. Don't know what kind of frame rate we're getting, but it's getting sputtery a little bit. I guess I could try to turn it on, and I'm hearing my fan curve kicking in. So let's go ahead and try to get the display to work. There we go. Okay. Very low. So it might be better not to use FreeSync in these games. I think FreeSync might be slowing things down. Not 100% sure. It's actually getting higher frame rates on my old card without FreeSync. So I'm sure there's a way around this stuff. I think maybe disabling FreeSync and using just using the card as it is. I guess the big test is if it will exit the game properly. The rest of the stuff I can tweak and get it the way I want it to be. But let's see if just exiting the game works. It did. Okay, so we have successfully set up the card to run the games. Thanks for watching, and I might show, after I've got this set up the way I want it, games running faster than that 71 frame per second, and I'll probably turn off FreeSync because I really don't think it's helping with these games. But that it exited properly was the good thing. So I'll try all that out later. Thanks for watching, and you just saw how a Caveman upgrades a graphics card.